Hello again, fellow classmates in EDT 703. Brandon Ballantyne again. I'd like to tell you a little bit about an aspect of digital citizenship that I feel that a lot of people could benefit from learning about, specifically students. It's my experience in middle school that students tend to be a little bit new to social media behavior and what's expected of them online. So this presentation, in my estimation, would be most valuable to that group in particular. Again, anyone that participates in online activity probably would benefit from this, but students in particular are the group that I had in mind when I made this presentation. We'll start with the standard from the International Society for Technology and Education. It's standard 2B. It states that students engage in positive, safe, legal, and ethical behavior when using technology, including social interactions online or when using networked devices. We will begin with etiquette as it pertains to classwork. This is the easy one. These are some guidelines that I've put together based on my training and experience as a classroom teacher. These are the ones that most students are most likely to adhere to. They understand that anytime they're working on something as a class, whether it be reviewing each other's materials or doing group work with online activities, they know that there are watching eyes on them all the time. There are programs for it. Also, they know that anything that they put into text form is going to be reviewed by an instructor. So they usually stay between the lines on this one. All the same, though, I do have several listed that I think it's important for students to keep in mind. These are guidelines that apply to students to their online behavior as it applies to collaborative schoolwork. Number one, first bullet there, be concise. It's important to be clear online, especially when nonverbal cues are not used in the communication. And what I mean by that is there's a lot that is lost in translation when all you have to go by are the words on the screen. Subtle nuances, sarcasm, they go right over people's heads, and more often than not, it can lead to someone getting their feelings hurt. Without visual and nonverbal cues like facial expression, hand signals, it's difficult to communicate unless you are very concise and very to the point. Number two there, something I think we should all adhere to, not just with online behavior, be polite. Even though the interaction you have with someone working in your class with you may be brief, manners are still paramount. Remember, you are still classmates. Now, any other year, when we would not be in the middle of a global pandemic, something you would have to keep in mind is whatever sort of interaction you have with your classmates online is probably going to have to be spoken for when you see them again face to face in the classroom. You guys are classmates. Don't do anything online that you wouldn't do to them the following day or the following week when you see them again in person. Third bullet, be teachable. Peer criticism should be executed in a positive manner. Remember, it's important to be constructive. As classmates, you want to edify each other and lift each other up. It's okay to point out your shortcomings in your classmates' work. However, you always want to lift them up and show them how it can be better. Not just why it's not good, but how it can be better. All right. Moving on to what I feel are the more important slides in this presentation. Practical applications. What I mean by practical applications are the online behavior of the students when they're not doing classwork related activities online. We'll start with what could be the biggest one here, social media. You should treat any social media interaction just as you would face-to-face interaction. That is to say, don't do or say anything online that you would not do or say in person. That's pretty self-explanatory. I have another bullet in just a moment that's going to go hand in hand with that. We'll move on to personal information. Students should never, ever give their personal information online to someone that you are not sure is a credible person. This would include sensitive information such as your address or anyone else's address for that matter, phone number, your phone number, or anyone that you know. Billing info is particularly important. Billing info is kind of an umbrella term, and that includes any kind of bank account numbers, routing numbers, credit or debit card numbers, even your social security number. This is all information that you should not share online unless it's on a secure server with a secure connection with a person or company that you are familiar with. More practical applications. Networked devices. This is something that's often lost on students, but it's important to get this point across. Never, ever trust an open networked router when using a wireless device. And this would include, obviously, cell phones, iPads, laptops, anything with wireless internet capability. If it's an open connection, then any sensitive information that moves between your device and the router, it's open season on that stuff. There are people out there that are capable of pirating that information and using it for nefarious purposes. The next thing you know, after you've shared some of your information online in an email or in any other manner, next thing you know, a week later, you're getting a bill for a new television or something like that. It's just something to be aware of for students to take with them when they leave school. You don't know when they're going to be using an open source router in a McDonald's or in a hotel room or even in college. It's something they're not typically aware of, and they need to be made aware of it. Finally, and this is the trouble area that unfortunately I have firsthand experience with the most, especially dealing with middle school kids, photos and videos. It's important to communicate to students that anything that they put out there has the potential to get around to people that they otherwise would not have shared it with. I'm not going to be very explicit on this. You can all use your imagination. We're all adults. We've probably all dealt with something like this in our lives. You have a student that shares something inappropriate that they wish they could take back, that gets out and goes viral, and the next thing you know, it's on every phone in the school. It's important to tell your students to never, ever send a photo or video that they would not expect to get out to anyone and everyone they know, because they can always bet on it happening. I've seen instances where people have borrowed someone's phone, or, hey, let me use your computer for a moment to send an email, and they stumble across this information, and what do? They forward it to their phone, and then they get on their phone and they forward it to everyone they know. And more often than not, it always has a really, really bad ending. It can lead to, a lot of mental anguish, shame, and embarrassment. There are other aspects to consider, though, the legal ramifications notwithstanding. It's just a good rule of thumb to never send a photo or video that you would not want anyone to see. All right. To create this slideshow, I did use this video as a source to learn about the standard, and then I drew on my own personal experiences as a classroom teacher with 10 years of experience. If you'd like to hear any more about my experiences with online behavior, particularly as it pertains to middle school students, hit me up, send me a question or an email, and I'd love to get with you about it and tell you more about it. Thank you so much.